I basically got this vehicle from an impound. It wasn't running. We tried to get it running when we went to pick it up. That was unsuccessful, so we just towed it home. So I've never actually got this thing started. That was what led me to believe that it was could be just as simple as the fuel pump. We've proved that's not the case, and now we're going to target the alarm system. So the issue is that all I have is this was the only key that I was given with the vehicle when I bought it. There is no factory fob to go with this. So I have no control over locking or unlocking the doors with the factory fob. I have also disconnected this system out of the vehicle, so this is no longer of any use either. Now what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and eliminate the factory security system so that that's not going to prevent us from being able to start this vehicle. We got some of the components here on the bench, and first thing I did was I removed all of the key cylinders here. So this is from the rear lift gate, and then this would be the key cylinder that goes into the rear lift gate there, and then these are going to be for the driver's and passenger door. There's the door here, and it would go in through the hole, and when you install it, this little arm is going to face the door jamb, because that's where the actuator is in here to close the door. So that's where this little arm is going to come from the actuator and hook onto here. Whether or not you remember what color it was, that's the way it'll go in when it gets installed. This looks like it's the driver's side. This tab is at the top. The arm is on that side when it gets installed in there like that. So to remove this thing, all you're going to do is you're just going to remove the metal arm that's connected onto here that goes to the actuator. You'll also disconnect this off of the end there. This is what I'm calling the lock cylinder indicator. It's like a triangular piece on the end, and then there's this slot there. The slot's gonna line up with this stub here, and then it just presses on once you've got that lined up. So you just line it up and then press it on, and it holds itself in place there. So you'll unplug this, you'll disconnect that, and then the last thing is you've just got this, which basically slides into that little groove there on both sides. You see the groove on this side and this side. So it'll slide into those two grooves on the inside of the door, and that's all that's holding this on there. So disconnect those three things, and then you can remove these out of the driver's and passenger door. For the rear lift gate here, once you've disconnected this arm and you've taken that nut off, then there's just a little, kind of like a little clip in here, like that's a little recess. That recess is where that's going to fit into the body metal. So you'll pull that out and then push it this way, and then kind of get that out of there. Once you've gotten that out of there, there's this little clip here that holds that in place, and then you also have to remove this clip on the end right there so that you can pop this piece off of here. And then once you've done that, then you can pull the key lock cylinder out of there. So the last thing I did was I took out the ignition, and there's 1, 2, 3 screws, and these are the screws here. Now notice those screws got that Torx with that little pin in the center, so you need the special tool to get those out. So you get 3 of those out of there, and then that removes this whole thing. So I just used a ratchet extension and the Torx bit, and that ends up being a T20. Now that you have this removed, you're going to want to put your key in there, rotate the tumbler, and here's the little catch in there. So you rotate the tumbler, and then you'll push that down, and then you'll be able to pull out the ignition there. Okay, so I've turned the key, and then all I need to do is just push this down and pull that out. I'll need 2 hands to do that. We've now got that removed out of there, and this is that little piece that you're going to press down with something, and then once you've pressed that down, you can pull this out. So now we have all of our key lock switches and our ignition switch all together here. And the purpose behind this is, while I'm going to try and deactivate the alarm system, I'm also going to rekey the tumblers. The reason that I'm going to do that is I want the same key to match with my other vehicle, so I don't need all these different keys, one key for all the vehicles. But before we get involved with rekeying the tumblers here, what I've done in the past is I've just simply disconnected all of these key lock indicators off of the end of the cylinders here. These are the three here. So rear lift gate, and then you've got driver's door, passenger door, and they're all color coded here. So the black one is the driver's side, the white one should be the passenger side, and this one here, this red one, should be for the rear lift gate. Once you've disconnected these three, and I've removed the whole wire out of each door, once you've disconnected those three, that should in effect disarm your alarm system, because this is what activates it. The way I understand it is that when you have your key fob and you lock your door, you're locking all the doors at once. And when you unlock the doors, you're unlocking all the doors at once. And if you try to unlock one of those doors with the key, it's going to sense that one door is being unlocked and not all of them at once, and that's going to trigger the alarm. So if you simply disconnect all three of these, you should be good. And they're normally open circuit, so if you just unplug this, all these are unplugged. You could leave these in there if you wanted to, and just simply unplug them and leave them unplugged. Should suit the same purpose, but I like to take them all out entirely. Okay, so there's one more thing you got to know for the rear lift gate. Some of them have the rear glass opens up, and in this case, this rear glass here will open up. And so there's actually one more to disconnect. So this one goes on there, and you disconnect that. That'll be the last one. But if you have a lift gate that doesn't have an opening window in the back, you won't have that. You won't have to worry about that one. If we refer in the manual here on 8W-39-8, this is what it's saying. Here we've got the lift gate, and that's the plug for that. And then we've got the lift glass, and that's the plug for that. In both cases, you're gonna have a tan and black, and you're gonna have a black wire. So it's a little easier to see on this one here. You can tell that that's tan with a black stripe, and the other one is black. Not as easy to tell on this one, but it is the same. There's a tan wire with the black stripe, and then the other wire is black. Those are going to be your two plugs to unplug. Here we are on the passenger door here, and it's actually labeled, and that's what it says there. It says switch key. So this is what you're unplugging here. This one here shows a purple wire with the yellow stripe and black. And then over here on the driver's side, here's that plug there. You're going to disconnect. Again, it's labeled here, key switch. And then if you take a look, it actually shows better on this side. It's purple and yellow with the black wire. Now if we look on 8W-39-7, that's what it's showing here. We've got our front right cylinder lock switch, and you see there that we have the violet and yellow, and then on this side we have the black, and we should have the same thing over here, violet, yellow, and then the black. So we verified all four of those switches, and we've disconnected them all. Here's where I get the information where it says the ajar switches are normally open when the doors, lift gate, lift glass, and hood are closed. When one of them is open, its ajar switch closes and contacts the BCM to ground. So these are normally open switches. You'll have to do some looking around online, but I was able to find a kit that you buy this kit, and it'll have the whole thing. It'll have the ignition in it, and it'll have all these little pieces and components. And so what I have is I just have a tray of leftover pieces from some of these things. what's going to happen here is when you take that tumbler apart, and it's going to be the same for all of these now. This is just showing for the ignition, but it's going to be the same for all of them. You're going to have 4 on the top and 4 on the bottom. All I've done is, as an example here, I write down, I just have this little schematic here, and when I disassemble it, I have my numbers of the key that comes out of these locations. So these would be the 4 top and these would be the 4 bottom. There's only ever going to be up to number 4. So you've got keys 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then you'll have however many different configurations that's going to give you. And each one of those keys is going to have these little notches in a different area. So for example, that's number 2. That's number 1. That one's number 3. And that one's number 4. There's going to be a subtle difference in that edge there. You'll see that there's kind of like 2 notches in that one, 2 notches in that one, 1 notch in that one, 1 notch in that one. So that's kind of the difference with those keys. And then all you need to do is you just set the right number of key into the slot. There will also be a corresponding spring that is activated on that little tang there, and that's gonna keep it pushed up. And when the key goes into the slot, that's what pulls it all in. And when it's pulled in, then you can like turn the tumbler and pull the tumbler out when you have to do that part. So this is the ignition cylinder here, and there's a little pin in there, and so I'm just going to use this pick, and I'm going to depress that pin down, and then I'm going to turn the key this way, and then it'll go past. When I push that pin down, it'll go past this catch here, and then you'll be able to pull the tumbler out. So what I did was I pushed that pin down, and then I turned it, and now you can see where it's popped itself out of there, and it should come out all the way. You might have to twist it a little bit, and then it comes out. So now we see with the key in here, you see all them other little keys, those are pulled down, and that's what allows this thing to turn. So now all we need to do is just pull the key out, and then we can get a pair of needle nose pliers or whatever, and we can start pulling our keys out of there. So if we look at our diagram here, this is where we want to match it up. So if we have it orientated like this will be the top, and then the other part will be the bottom. So in this case, there's 4 on the top and 3 on the bottom. We have that illustrated here. I just put an X for the one that's missing. Here's our piece here. And I think maybe what they've done is they did that on purpose so you can't get them mixed up too. Who knows? I don't know. So this was the sequence that we removed, and now we'll install it the way we want. Reverse of the same. And what you want to do is you want to put some grease in there. The grease is to keep the springs and these keys functioning so they don't get sticky or stuck in there or anything like that. Reduce the friction, corrosion, and so on and so forth, so they operate freely. Now that you've rebuilt your cylinder and it turns and everything operates properly, and now you just want to line this up with your little plunger here to go up with the hole there. So you just simply push that back in and pop it into place, and now it's good. So we'll put the key in. We've got accessory. We've got just before start, and then turning the key to start the vehicle. Everything is operating properly. Now we'll go on to the door locks. This one here is for the rear lift gate. What I did was, this is the cover that goes on there. You can see those little serrated little spots in there. Those are what holds it on. So if you get something and you kind of pry that out just a little bit and work it around, then it loosens it off, and then you should be able to pry this off of there like that. Once that's off of there, you can take this rear spring back here, and you see where you got your spring. It's connected on either side there. If you grab the whole spring and you twist it, it releases it off the catch, and then pull it up. Do that on either side, and then you can remove the spring. Then you want to put your key in there, and your key sucks in those keys in there, and then you can twist and pull the tumbler right out. Put the key in there, and that's going to suck in all of those little keys. Now with all of those sucked down flush, now you can twist this and turn this out, and it'll be the repeat of the other one. We'll remove the key. We will take all of our these keys in here, we'll take those out and we'll put the right sequence back in and reassemble everything, and it'll be the same for all three of these. We're assembling the driver's side door lock cylinder here, and I just want to kind of go through just in case I missed some steps or suggesting some things earlier on. This one here is just going to be a little more difficult to get this cover plate off here. What I had to do was I pried the lip. I tried to pry it halfway around and retained the other half. Down there is the half that I didn't touch, and that's where I'm going to slide it in, and once I slide it in, then I'm going to gently tap this edge back around. That'll hold it back on. It's gonna look a little bit rough, but that's the best I can do to get this back together. So this will be a little more difficult to get off. I just used a flat screwdriver and I pried the edge off, and I kind of just twisted the screwdriver off of pushed off the side of there, and I just gently tried to get that lip pressed out of the way and then slide that off. Again, on the back here, you got this clip you take off. Then you can take the arm off, and then you just got this spring, and if you had to, you could actually take that off by hand, or you can use a pick and remove that. So we've removed the gasket, we've removed this cover plate. We put the key in there, and then we turn it, and then we're able to pull that right out of there. These are the keys that I've got in there, and as you can see, I'm missing one. The reason I'm missing one is because I ran out of number 1 keys. So this is the pile of 2, 3, and 4. You can only work with what you have. So that one's missing there, and then on this side we have another one missing on that side. So we've only got 2 on this side, and we've got 3 on this side, but that'll still work. It's still gonna function fine. There's no problem there. These, we still have 3 on this side and 2 on this side to catch inside those channels in there and prevent it from being unlocked. So as mentioning before, is you drop your spring in there. That's where the spring is. You drop that spring in there, and then you drop your key in there. Maybe you can see just underneath there where the spring is. So the spring is what's holding the key up right now, and when you put the key inside, it's going to grab and then it's going to pull them in. Now that we've put that key in there, you can see how it's pulled all of them in, and now this will turn properly inside there and unlock the doors. So the way that works is that as you're turning this back and forth, that spring is going to allow it to turn partially one way, partially the other way. So this little piece on the end, you can see where it catches there. So when you turn in that, it's going to catch there, and it's going to either lock it or unlock it. So it goes one way, it goes the other way. That's how that operates there. And this piece here is going to be fastened to the little linkage that goes down to the actuator. So now we can reassemble this. We'll slide this back in there, and we'll connect our back end, and we'll put our cover on the front end with our gasket and everything, and we can reinstall that into the door. We'll reinstall that pushed in from the outside, and then this clip goes on the back that holds it inside the door there. You can see here, this is the one that I've installed. I've tried it out, everything works and everything's good. You're going to want to do yourself a solid and take out this runner, this track for the window. And those 2 bolts are right there. They'll be 10 mil. You just remove those 2. And then this thing just pulls down, and then take it out of this window in the door here. That's going to give you lots of room in here to get at that linkage that you got to press on and connect, and then our clip that holds it from the inside. Once you've got that moved out of the way, you got lots of room to install that key lock cylinder. We've completed all the door locks and the ignition switch here. We'll reinstall everything, and after that we can try and see if we can start the vehicle after disconnecting those factory alarm key lock cylinder indicators. We've got the key on. This would be our constant power for our automatic shutdown relay. You see that's good. This is going to be our constant power for our fuel relay. You see that one's good. Now that we've got the ignition on, these orange wires should be hot. So you see that's good. And you see that one's good. If everything's doing what it's supposed to do, we should be getting power to our green and white wire going back to our fuel pump. And we still have no power. So we have not conquered the issue yet, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my little jumpers back in there. I'm going to see if I can get it started. So if you can see there, I've got my little jumper wires in there, and those jumper wires are going to go from our switched on power, which is the orange, to the green and white. Now what I did was I put the jumper wire in first on the automatic shutdown relay, and then I tried the fuel relay again, still nothing. I've got both of them connected on now, and as you can see, so that's our switched on power. And now you can see that we've got our power to our fuel pump. Maybe you can hear that fuel pump running back here. I'll just be quiet for a second. Now we'll just see if we can turn it over. So we still have a no start issue even after we've bypassed our automatic shutdown relay and our fuel pump relay right there. What we're going to do now is we're going to go back and we're going to try and find out again why we don't have any power going to our automatic shutdown relay right here. So we want the switched on power to feed this, and then after we get power from there, it should feed that. And also too, we're going to see what that automatic shutdown relay, what's connected to it and why we have a no start issue. And it all begins and ends with this automatic shutdown relay.